This is Mr. Ian Jenks, of course, Chairman, CEO, SmartChem, their ticker symbol SMTK. Second visit with us in studio.
It is.
Look at you, you're a veteran.
Do you know why
every time I come here.
You became so important to us for a couple of reasons. And that's when you brought up calibrated eyeball. And then I started thinking about this. You've changed the world of displays. Display. What you're watching us on. Display. Yep. I didn't think about this, honestly, until last week, about we look at your category more than we look at the universe based upon my screen time report.
Yeah.
So when you're talking about displays, LCD to OLED to MOUSE,
Yeah, I love that. Nice.
it occurred to me like literally this week how this is as important as Meta, it's as important as a search engine, it's as important as an iPhone.
Yep.
In terms of how our life depends on those things.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But before I talk about displays, much more important news.
Yes.
Every time I come and see you guys, good stuff happens.
What happened? What happened today?
So last time, remember, rang the NASDAQ bell?
Yes, that's
Yeah.
So this time, last Saturday, forget bells, forget displays, micro LEDs, all that stuff. As the sun set over the mountains, I got down on one knee and I asked the lovely Elaine to marry me, and she said yes.
Nice.
Way better.
So let's keep life in perspective, guys. Let's keep life in perspective.
Here I am trying to get to business.
I know, but
That's amazing.
Good
So
stuff.
you at the age of 26 years old is getting married?
at 120, I'm getting married.
Right.
Can I?
Yeah.
So
You're so afraid
As
to
a,
say no.
as a single man, I've got so many things to talk to you about. I would ask you, because I was relegated. I live like Batman. I've got a 140-pound Bernese Mountain Dog, just me and them in my bat cave. I'm thinking that's how it's going to be. That's how it's going to end. Well, congratulations. When is? Are you getting married here in the States? Or are you getting
I'll
married?
get married in London next summer.
Do you need a band? Do you need a band? Should we plan on coming over and playing
Well,
for you?
maybe,
No?
yeah.
Well, I know one thing we are going to be doing.
Yeah.
What rhymes with bachelor party?
Ian
Oh, no.
Jenks.
Oh, yeah.
We are taking him. I believe there's a Consumer Electronics Show coming up in Las Vegas.
There
Nevada.
is, yes.
I think we
God,
can
yeah.
do two in
Yeah.
one.
Yeah, absolutely.
Talk about this thing that, I mean, I didn't, it's so funny because I woke up on Sunday morning and I got this flash across my iPhone that says this is your screen use report for the week. And it's across all platforms on iCloud.
Isn't it terrifying?
Yes.
I started thinking,
Terrifying.
and I realized, wait a
7
second.
hours.
Makes you wonder what else you were doing.
I know.
Right.
Well, but this is why this is so important, how SmartChem's changed the world of display.
So, you know, displays are absolutely ubiquitous, and we really, really don't understand how much communication is visual. You know, because most of what we think is what we hear and what we speak, but actually the amount of data that's hitting your brain from your eyes is orders of magnitude greater. And all, you know, we all communicate with computers using a display. You know, increasingly, we don't even have a keyboard. We talk to the computer, but we see what's happening on the, you know, actually on the displays, on your mobile phone, in your car, in the signage. You know, if you look at the world from space, it's kind of just one big display of lights. So all communication, it's absolutely vital. And the one thing we do know about displays is even the really cool ones that, you know, like you have around here, is they don't look like real life today.
Right.
Don't look
Which
like real
they
life.
still don't look like real
Still don't live. It's getting better. And to get them to look like real life, you have to have them roughly 3 or 4 times as bright and 3 or 4 times as much contrast as you have.
Do we want that? Do we? Is that what we're shooting for in your business?
Because if you want to have a world of artificial reality powered by artificial intelligence that expands, literally expands your brain, then you can't have a barrier in terms of the visual input between what I'm seeing when I look at you here and what I see when I look at you on the screen.
What's interesting about this thing is you talk about displays, and one thing it comes down to the transistor. And you guys have created a new transistor, correct?
We have created.
I mean,
a new
nobody. When's the
transistor.
last time you used the word transistor?
Yeah.
But it's basically building blocks here, right?
Radio
Isn't that
Shack.
the secret sauce for
Yeah.
you?
Radio Shack.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
I bought one transistor, $25, 40 years ago. One transistor, you know, and
And now you're creating. Now you guys have made a new class of transistor that enables
plastic one.
this. I guess I think you call it a chip-first approach that you
Chip
described
first
last
approach.
time.
Absolutely. So, you know, if you look at a TV, 40-inch TV, 25 million pixels.
Right.
So 25 million little dots that are going to glow red, green, and blue.
Right.
Each one of those is driven by actually a little group of transistors. And you've got to figure out how to take 25 million of these little things that are going to glow, and you've got to stick them on a sheet 40 inches in diameter, and then you've got to weld them all to the existing types of transistors that you use. Even if you have 99.9999% yield, you have 10,000 faults on your screen. Add another 9, that's getting pretty fancy. You've got 1,000. Add another 9, you've still got 100. And so that's 100 repairs you've got to figure out how to do, or 100 little defects that you actually look at the screen. So it's the SID show up in San Jose. I've been watching, going and looking at all the latest TVs, you know, taking little pictures of them, zooming in and counting the dead pixels.
No way.
So
it's-
absolutely.
And-
So
and
how you
that-
make them is a really difficult problem to solve.
And the manufacturing process is really a key here.
Absolutely. This is all about great ideas. How do you make stuff? How do you make stuff? And so what we do is we turn the whole problem upside down. We take all of these little things that glow red, green, and blue, and we put them on a sheet of glass. And then we make plastic, and the polymer electronics, and they come as a liquid. And we literally pour the transistors over the top, and then we photo pattern them, and we put 5 or 6 layers.
How has Jerry Jones, the owner of the Cowboys, called you yet? Because,
About this jumbotron?
well, I'm thinking, how big can you get with your
Right.
technology?
Well, so in terms of LCDs today, they actually make LCDs in 3-yard squares. Can you believe that?
Whoa.
3-yard squares. I mean, these lines.
3 yards.
9
feet. By 9 feet by 9 feet.
9
27
feet
square
by
feet.
9 feet squares. Wow. So they can make LCDs like that. And then, sadly,
Well, that's
what
roughly 2 of our
Yeah.
big screen here.
So that's the liquid crystal displays that they do at the moment. When you get down to the latest displays, which are these little micro displays using the micro LEDs, in practice, the biggest things they can make are about this big today.
Okay.
Because if you make them any bigger than that, there's a massive yield problem. And then they stitch, you get these 102-inch TV screens with micro LEDs costing $150,000. They stitch all these little panels together. You look at them from the side and you can see the joins.
As we're talking about your manufacturing, your supply chain, changing the world, it occurs to me that I was watching, and out of your world, Mike's a nationally recognized sportscaster, has been on the sideline at NFL football games. Have you tried to watch television, even in 1995 replay of a football game? It looks like you're staring through, and this was state of the art, by the way.
Yeah.
They had
Sony
glossy
Trinitron.
graphics coming across it. Wasn't 1980 where it was like,
Yep.
like it sounded like Pong. This was the state, and they had the Olympic and the thing was going around, but you were looking through cheesecloth.
Yeah.
Wipe the screen.
And the reason, and we thought this is the greatest picture you've ever seen. The problem is, just like the problem with instant gratification with our news and everything else, we are so used to looking at, I mean, even looking at our big screen here of the picture of your big screen, I think it was a Consumer Electronics or something like that. The technology thing concerns me in terms of you're only good as your last screen, right?
But isn't that the way
But
with all technology? You're only as good as your last chip. You're only as good as your last product.
But it concerns me as a consumer that we're never going to stop buying stuff because it's always you're making stuff better and better and better, which is a good thing for you guys.
Well, I hope so. Is the short answer to that. I hope you never stop buying stuff. But yeah, until you get to true life.
Yeah, right. That's a lot. Yeah,
And that is, and we're getting there. We're getting there.
I got to talk about tariffs with you because of the fact that I personally believe that Donald Trump does what Donald Trump does. whether you like him or hate him, the guy's a genius in business. He created chaos, now he's come to the rescue. We all kind of knew this was going to happen the way it happened. However, there's been some pause and such going on because you don't know, and as a CEO of a public company with a supply chain, and have you had to pivot a little bit? And is there any sigh of relief at what happened this week with China and so on and so forth?
Absolutely. I mean, you have to pivot in any business, and something as fundamental as 100% tariffs for an undetermined period that come in overnight between China and the US.
It's not like you're getting your parts from Omaha, Nebraska.
Exactly. So, but fortunately, I think for us, most of the materials that we buy, we can source locally, whether it's in China or Taiwan. And our core really secret electronic polymers, we actually manufacture here in the States. And we can ship those, and even and as part of the total bill of materials, it's not it won't kill us.
You talked about our $75 or $25 transistor from Radio Shack. I remember my grandparents, when I was 12 years old, bought me a $100 calculator, which could basically add, subtract, divide, and multiply. Oh. What brings these prices down? Because next year, the next hottest display is going to cost a bazillion, but then it doesn't cost a bazillion. What is it, competition that brings these things down? Because the more technology, is that more efficient?
It's development of the manufacturing process.
So it's what's exactly what you're doing?
It's actually starting, all of these displays start about that big, and then they go up through the generations, 2, 3, 4, 5, up to Gen 10. And in the same way that the silicon world reduces its prices by going to bigger wafers. Now they kind of stopped out at about 300 millimeters. Their 450 mil didn't scale properly. The display industry has gone up to now.
So
Gen
the manufacturing process itself is what's driving.
That's what drives the cost.
As we're getting better.
As you get better at it, make them bigger.
Wow.
Yeah. But back to your points on tariffs. So and as you say, like him or not, it's a reality. And I was in Taiwan last week, fortunate to have dinner with some of their industry leaders and actually the president of Taiwan.
So you took the pulse. What's the pulse?
And he talked about the display industry, how important it was, how micro LEDs were really important to Taiwan, and then he talked about tariffs. And I don't think I'm betraying any confidence. He says, he said, guys, you are all going to have to learn to make stuff in America as well as Taiwan.
Huh. Yeah. So maybe it turns out to be manufacturing. There's no more Rust Belt in the States. Maybe manufacturing comes back to the U.S.
Maybe it does. And but
then along that it comes with prices.
Regulation and
prices, regulation, and skill set.
One way or the other, you got to pay for it.
Yeah. Absolutely.
That leads me to the question of your next 2 years. Let's say, what does it look like? What are you focusing on? And then is part of that, how are you going to make this in the United States?
Last question first. Absolutely. We would like to figure out how we can have a strategy that brings displays back to the US. And we are talking with people about the possibilities of doing that. But we'd have to do that with strategic partners. The skill set doesn't exist in the States today.
I'm glad I'm not a CEO.
Oh my God.
So we are talking about that.
Because you have to you got to navigate not just employees, not just revenue, not just expenses, but now you're navigating things like tariffs and mandates and regulation at the same time.
But that's what makes it fun.
And now he's a fiance.
And now he's a fiance.
Yeah.
Good Lord.
Yeah.
Next time you're on the air, the bottom third is going to say, Ian Jenks, fiance. CEO.
They grow up so fast.
They do. Fiance, Chairman, CEO, SmartChem, ticker symbol SMTK.